Hey, it is July 14th, and I thought what better time to do my June reading wrap-up halfway through the month and see if I remember everything. So I'm gonna do all the books, audiobooks, and movies that I have consumed in the month of June. I thought this would be fun, so let's just give it a little whirl. So I've compiled a little list on my handy dandy Google Doc of all of those 3 categories. Overall stats in the month of June, I read 2 physical books, 3 audiobooks, and 8 movies. So I'm just gonna go through each of them and kind of tell you some of my thoughts, and yeah, so here we go. Let's start with some physical books. So let me go and grab them for you. Okay, I'm back, don't fret. Our first book that I read in the month of June is Everyone Worth Knowing by Lauren Weisberger. So I got this book off of like a dollar cart down at the shore, and I got it I think last summer, and then I read it this summer. I actually started it in May, finished in June. And let me read you just like the little blurb off the internet. This book is about the lead character, Bette Robinson, who is a single woman in New York City, and she's caught up in the city's party circuit through her new job in public relations. It's pretty fun. I rated this a 3.5 on Goodreads. Unfortunately, I do use Goodreads, so there is no half stars, which is kind of tough, so a lot of these are probably going to be a 3. But I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was lots of fun. I never read The Devil Wears Prada before this, but it is the same author, and kind of a similar vibe. I really liked the like busybody energy of it. I think that's really fun. So if you like that kind of like hustle bustle, writing in a planner, that kind of vibe, on call all the time, like that kind of stuff is really cool, and some drama, some romance, you know, that kind of stuff. It was fun. It was a nice like page turner, like warming back up to reading after being in school all semester, reading for fun anyway. And that was super fun. And then after reading this is when I watched The Devil Wears Prada for the first time, which very similar vibe, but one is like in fashion and this one is more in public relations. So if you like The Devil Wears Prada, I do recommend. This was super fun. Our next book that we read is On Writing, a Memoir of the Craft by Stephen King. So this one, I did rate this 5 out of 5 on my Goodreads. And the blurb is just, Stephen King describes his experience as a writer and his advice for aspiring writers. I am a creative writing major. This is a book that is often recommended in that kind of field. I actually bought this book for one of my high school creative writing classes. So I've had this book for like 4 years maybe, and we read like a little section of it, like with some exercises, and we did some of that in class. But then the whole of the book also has like some stories on like how he got to where he is, and like his childhood and his upbringing, and like how he kind of goes about writing, and some interesting things like that, and just some advice. And I thought it was great. I think this is honestly the first Stephen King thing I've read, because I'm kind of a scaredy cat and was afraid to read him before this. I read this and I actually really just like fell in love with like his dialect and like language and how he tells a story. Like I really enjoy his narrative voice. I really liked this, and now I have started reading 4 Past Midnight, which is a collection of novellas of his, so maybe that'll be in the next video. So if you are an aspiring writer, or you just kind of want to know more about Stephen King, I guess, I do recommend. So those are the physical books that I consumed in the month of June. So now we're moving on to audiobooks. So the first one I listened to was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Okay, so hot take a little bit. I rated this a 3.5 on Goodreads. So this is a dystopian novel, the second prequel novel to the original Hunger Games trilogy. And this just follows Haymitch's games, basically his origin story. I thought it was fun. I definitely liked it. I think it was a little like a book was written because they wanted to make a movie, if that makes sense. I think that it filled a lot of holes, answered some questions, but I felt like it was very kind of just like pleasing to the fans a little bit. I actually wrote some thoughts on this down in my journal that I'm gonna peek at and see what I actually thought, if I can find it. Let's see. Yeah, I feel like my biggest takeaway, my little journal, it felt very buzzword heavy. A lot of like connections that seemed a little bit forced, of like connecting characters to other characters' parents, and like things where it's like there's no way that they were like all truly like this interconnected. And I guess maybe 12 is like a smaller district than I'm like imagining, but it was a little kind of more retrospective than it felt like it actually came before the original trilogy, which a little like, what is that? Deus ex machina? What is that thing where it's like, let me look that up for you. A plot device where an unsolvable conflict is suddenly resolved by an improbable, unexpected occurrence. It felt a little heavy in that things were out of people's control rather than like the actions they did led to things. As someone who loves the original Hunger Games, like obviously I'm gonna eat this up, but definitely looking forward to the movie. My next audiobook was The Energy Bus by Jon Gordon. And I rated this a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. And a little blurb is, it takes readers on an enlightening and inspiring ride that reveals 10 secrets for approaching life and work. So this book was actually assigned to me by my softball coach. Our whole team is supposed to read this book this summer before our season. And basically, the sum of it is just there's a man, his car like breaks down and he's forced to take the bus instead of driving to work, and he's like a very negative guy. And then as he spends time in this positive community and learns from this bus driver about her 10 rules for leading a successful and happy life, he starts to become a more successful and happy and positive person. I'll put the rules up on the screen. I liked this book. I felt inspired. Get away from negative people, stay with positive people, like work towards your goals, remember the value in yourself and in little things, and like all that positive, inspiring stuff. But I did give it only 4 out of 5 because I felt like this narrative was a little like weak. I think it originally, I believe, was a children's book, and I think that might be why it felt a little like the writing style was a little lacking. The audiobook itself, it wasn't a very like engaging narrative voice, so I think for that reason I lowered it a little bit, but I felt like the message was good. I did feel inspired from it. Cling to positive people. Surround yourself with positive people. My last audiobook of the month of June was Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I read all of Twilight when I was much younger, and I've been wanting to reread it, but then I was like, what better thing to reread than just listen to it as an audiobook? So we did that, and I rated it a 3.5 on my Goodreads. Blurb: vampire fantasy romance novel, in short. Twilight's fun. Twilight's very intro to that you're a teenager and some supernatural romance. It's a fun time. I think definitely some of it can be a little cringy. Maybe that's what lowered it a little for me, but I think that thinking of Twilight in the lens of a dramatic depiction of what it feels like to be young and in love, and how when you're a teenager, life and love just feels so extreme, and I think thinking of it in that realm kind of makes it more profound to me. The bare bones of it, it's a fun little fantasy book with some cute little romance elements, but yeah, I think just like the extremity of young love is so interesting to me. And I read kind of a similar vibe when I was reading Forever by Judy Blume, little bonus book for this video. That same kind of feeling where young love is just so extreme and all-encompassing and like overwhelming, and I think that is such an interesting topic in books that I kind of got my head spinning about that, which is cool. But yeah, if you like vampires, you know, who doesn't? All right, so that is my reading wrap for the month of June. Now we're going to go into movies. The first movie I saw was The Devil Wears Prada 2, directed by David Frankel. I saw this at the AMC. A blurb is, Miranda Priestley struggles against Emily Charlton? I'm gonna go with Carlton. Her former assistant turned rival executive as they compete for advertising revenue and declining print media. I rated this a 2.5 out of 5 on my Letterboxd. This was a fun movie. It was very like again kind of scratched the itch of like buzzwords. I thought the first Devil Wears Prada was very fun. I felt like the second one was a little all over the place, didn't really like need to happen. It was kind of just like a very similar plot to the first one, but a little less thought out. But it was fun to see all like the actors coming back and doing the show again. And I think like that message that just like work isn't everything. You should be happy. And I like that. Same kind of thing I was saying about Everyone Worth Knowing, where I feel like I like the energy of like Lauren Weisberger's stuff, where it's just like just a busybody like planner organizing my life, like running around the city. Like I find that lifestyle very fun to consume in the media, but don't think a sequel necessarily needed to happen, but fun nonetheless. Our second movie I saw was, oh, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's last name. One second. Okay, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but anyway, the new Scary Movie, directed by Michael Tiddes, I think. I also saw this at AMC. Alright, so blurb. 26 years after outrunning a suspiciously familiar masked killer, Shorty, Ray, Cindy, and Brenda find themselves targeted by another mad slasher. I rated this 2.5 out of 5. Pretty popular rating for me. I enjoy the kind of more like blunt humor. I think it's funny. I like some sketch comedy style, slapstick style stuff. I think that can be lots of fun. I didn't see any of the scary movies before this one. Like I think a lot of the older references like obviously did not land with me because I wasn't familiar with the rest of the series. So I think obviously for some people there's like more nostalgia to it, and like they probably would have been more excited to see certain jokes and stuff coming back. But it was definitely lots of fun. Let me see if I wrote anything down about this one. I don't think I did. I need to like actually like get my life together with like actually being consistent writing in my journal, but you know, we'll just do it off the dome. But yeah, no, it was fun. I think, yeah, maybe I would have rated it a little higher if I had seen the other ones of the series, but I don't think you needed to. You would have known who those characters were, but it wasn't like necessary to the plot really. More just some like silly, slapsticky, sketchy style humor, which always a good time. Okay, the next movie I saw was Stop That Train, directed by Adam Shankman, and this was also at AMC. Shout out AMC. So I rated this one a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Blurb: the two stewardesses must save the day when a catastrophic storm threatens to derail a high-speed train. Now, this movie, like, honestly, so silly, so fun. Basically, a train that is broken and won't stop, and also all the all the people who work on the train are drag queens, and that's awesome. It was super funny, also kind of that same like a little slapsticky, a little like sketch comedy like style humor, more racy jokes, also super fun musical numbers. It was just a joy. Like, it was just a funny movie. So that was a good time. It was definitely like silly, you know, the power of friendship and such. Yeah, that one was great. Next I watched Lemonade Mouth, which obviously that's a rewatch. Directed by Patricia Riggen. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 on my Letterboxd. Blurb: 5 high school students form a music group and prepare to compete against a popular rock band. All right. I feel like we're all, you know, Lemonade Mouth stans here. This is definitely one of my favorite Disney movies. Like, this is just such a solid Disney movie. If you haven't seen it, you know the drill. Add it to the list. Next, I saw Toy Story 5, directed by Andrew Stanton at the AMC. Big AMC fans over here. I don't know why I'm like so... That can't be true. Let me check my Letterboxd 1 second. Okay, I'm back, and I did in fact lie. I just like forgot to change half the numbers on my document. But we're back. So where was I? Toy Story 5, directed by Andrew Stanton at the AMC. I gave this a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Blurb: Buzz, Woody, Jessie, and the rest of the gang come face to face with LilyPad, a brand new tablet device that arrives with her own disruptive ideas about what is best for Bonnie. So this movie, honestly, like, when you see the trailer and it's about iPads, you know, that's a little not super excited about that concept, but honestly, finding out that the iPad is in fact kind of like the villain, not like, it wasn't horribly evil, but like, it's kind of an anti-technology stance, or more so using technology in the way it's supposed to be used and not abusing it and overusing it and using it to replace imagination and play. I think that's a very powerful message that I really supported, and it was interesting watching this. Me and my sister did notice many a phone out in the audience, people scrolling on their phones during this film, which I think was incredibly ironic. A little too ironic. I think just the kind of technology and moderation stands, and that imagination is as important as ever, and finding people like you, and that you can be yourself and you will find friends if you are yourself, I think is a beautiful message. I thought this was a very well done movie. Go Toy Story. Next movie I saw was Girls Like Girls, directed by Hayley Kiyoko at the AMC. A blurb. After moving to a small Oregon town to live with her estranged father, young Coley meets the charismatic Sonia, her boyfriend Trenton, and the rest of their friends. Content to observe from a distance, Coley gets pulled into their world as sparks start to fly between the new girl and the popular girl. Alright, so I was really excited about this movie, and then I ended up giving it a 1.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd because I felt like the characters were kind of underdeveloped. Their love felt like a little abrupt, and like I kind of just wanted like more development out of the characters, I think is what I wanted, which I think, if I'm correct, this movie, like, it was a song and then it became a book and then it became a movie, I think is like the order, which I like the concept. I think it falls in nicely with like the Twilight and like the Forever stuff I was saying, where it's like young love and it's so large and scary and oh my god, like finding out who you are, and like I like that message it represents, but I just wish there was a little bit more personality to these people. I want to know more like what makes them tick and like what they like to do and like who they are as their own individuals, which maybe they are just teenage girls and they're figuring it out, and like that's the point. I also think it ended a little abruptly for my taste. I kind of wanted to see a little bit more of their struggles being together rather than just like it ending when they decided to be together. A little disappointing, but I liked the concept. Now, our 7th movie of the month was Bohemian Rhapsody, directed by Bryan Singer. Blurb time. Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of Queen, defies stereotypes and conventions to become a beloved entertainer. The band's popular songs lead to Queen's rise in the 1970s. After leaving the group to pursue a solo career, Mercury reunites with Queen for the benefit concert Live Aid, resulting in one of the most memorable performances in rock and roll. I gave this a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I thought this movie was fantastic. I think I might have doxed it a little because I felt like it was a little slow in the beginning is possibly what I was thinking, but I feel like this did a really good job of like showing their development and how they became a band. I also think like Freddie Mercury's development like as a human was so well done. I think kind of him finding his place and accepting himself, like I really enjoyed watching that journey. I also enjoy how they ended the film. I think especially with the Michael film that just came out, I think a lot of people were like, what an abrupt ending, and like it didn't really, like people wanted to know more about like the end of his life and like that kind of stuff. And then also I felt like the way they depicted, and I'm just switching movies now, but the way they depicted the rise to fame, like I kind of was like, okay, but how did they do that? Like it was very like they didn't give very many details of like how they got to that point. And I think the Bohemian Rhapsody movie did a very good job of that whole arc. The movie ended in a positive place, but knowing that this despair was coming later, and I think that was honestly like the perfect way to end this film. I also think Rami Malek was fantastic, as well as all the other, like especially all the other members of the band were so well casted. Like they look identical. I thought it covered everything it needed to cover, and the music, fantastic, you know? So great movie. And my last movie of June was Supergirl, directed by Craig Gillespie at AMC. So blurb. Who doesn't love a good blurb? When an unexpected and ruthless adversary strikes too close to home, Supergirl reluctantly joins forces with an unlikely companion for an interstellar journey of vengeance and justice. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. This is like connected to the new Superman movie that came out. It's like the same universe. I was a little skeptical when I felt like this whole movie kind of circled around like her dog, but I thought it actually turned out like they put the proper amount of weight on the situation, which I think was good. I really enjoyed the sections where it showed like her upbringing and how she got to be the way she is. Like I feel like this was a very different depiction of Supergirl than I've ever seen. I feel like my main one is the DC show that's on Netflix. This, her being kind of more like, I don't want to say like teenage dirtbaggy, but like very like not a care in the world, drinking, like doing her own thing. It was actually a very fun interpretation of the character. I kind of liked it. I think one of my favorite quotes, which I'm not remembering it too perfectly, but it was something along the lines of, you don't have to be nice, but you have to be good. And I think that's a really strong takeaway, where this is a character who's been through so much, and she's not always the nicest person. Like maybe she's a little snarky and whatever, but she is good. And I think that's such a powerful message. Obviously this has the trope of like, oh my god, little girl who doesn't know what she's doing teams up with a girl who with a tortured past. I thought it was super fun. I also think that this movie concluded nicely, and I like the character development that Kara went on through this film. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say right now. I think it's hard to say everything you feel about a film in one little video without giving any spoilers, but I did my best. And yeah, that is my June reading and movie watching wrap, and hopefully see you guys same time next month. Thanks for watching. Keep reading.